Welcome to the From Beggar to Investor series. My name is Cara Lynn Sanders. Most people call me Kai, and Kai is how I introduce myself. But honestly, I really don't have a preference. I simply request proper pronunciation. Or is it pronunciation? Uh, Regardless of which one you choose, that's all I ask is you say my name right. Thank you so much for being here, being willing to listen to what I have to say. This has been a long time coming, mostly because I struggled with how to put it all together, and finally it's here. So I'm excited, and I just have an immense amount of gratitude for the time that you'll spend with me. And I hope you find that it is time well invested. So for the next few days, I'm going to upload a new video about what I'm doing. Today's video will be a pretty extensive introduction. I mean, it's hard to cover 46 years of living, but I'm going to condense it for you so that you can have an opportunity to know who you're dealing with and why you should be looking forward to the following videos. On Tuesday, the video will be on funding. What it is that I'm looking to do. Wednesday's video will be what I'm looking to fund. And the reason why I'm doing it in that aspect is because people are going to listen to what I have to say and think, holy cow, that requires a lot of money. And it does. So I'm going to tell you how I'm going to acquire that money first, and then I'll talk about what it is I'm going to fund. And then on Thursday and Friday, it's going to be a two-part series on some of my experiences and some of our experiences. Me and my son, our experiences with homelessness. Excuse me. And these videos will explain how I came to know what I know and why I'm looking to do what I'm doing. Now, I need to be clear that while I have invited all people of goodwill to review what I'm sharing, my focus is on the Black community. And it's not just because I'm a Black woman. It's because all I have learned is because of the Black community, from living among them and loving them and being one of them. Something that's pretty important to note is I didn't grow up in a predominantly Black community. In fact, I didn't even live in a predominantly Black community until I was in my 30s. So while I did grow up like many Black children do, I come with a little bit of a twist. I know people from Gucci to the ghetto. I have been blessed to associate with people of all flavors, and that's my personal way of designating people. So like for me, depending on the season, I'm a nice toasted peanut butter with a hint of cinnamon and caramel. And I also know people from nations and cultures around the world, and it is awesome. I love the life that I've lived thus far, as pretty insane as it's been. But another reason this is for the Black community is because I think, feel, and know that as far as information goes, especially when it's innovative, we often get left behind or even left out entirely. And so a lot of time that happens because our attention is focused so much on surviving that the information that would help us to thrive is not available in the realm we exist in. And so I'm here to change that. So as I already said, I'm starting with a lengthy introduction so people will get to know me better. And I've met a lot of people since I've been in Raleigh, and many I've invited to watch this series. I'm just going to be grateful that I know my worth, considering how people have treated me because of my financial situation. And so I'm ready to share with you my journey of beggar to investor. So once again, my name is Cara Lynn Sanders. Cara means dear or darling, and if you know me, you know that for the most part that's true. My nickname is Kai, and it's a nickname I've had all my life. For as far as I remember when I was growing up, my family would call me Kai. Now that I've gotten older, they all call me Cara for some reason. But it wasn't until 2008 when I was moving to Hawaii that I decided to use Kai full time. And that was because so many people screwed up Cara by calling me Kara that I got tired of it. And I figured Kai was so much easier to remember and pronounce. And so it was interesting because it was on my way to Hawaii that I even found out that Kai is a Hawaiian name. So it's kind of a fulfillment of my destiny to be there. That's what I say, that I should have been that obvious. I had a Hawaiian name all my life, and here I am moving to Hawaii, and that was a God thing. And it was a God thing to leave, believe me. Nobody wants to leave Hawaii. Anyway, and it definitely was. That was the most remarkable 4.5 years of my life, and I can't wait to go back, to bring back what I learned from my experiences there. And so Kai means, in Hawaiian, it means ocean. But while I was there, I met people through the jobs that I held that taught me that there were other meanings in different languages. And two of them that I remember are lovable and unlimited. And so I really come to love and embrace my nickname, because really I am lovable and I am love. Like, that is the gift that God gave to me. And as I talk more, you'll see how that plays out. And also, unlimited kind of reminds me of the ocean. And me and the ocean have a pretty special relationship, even though I haven't spent much time in it. And so I don't think I actually went in the water in Hawaii in the 4.5 years I've lived there. I since have been in the water, but I didn't then. And so I've been to the ocean here. I went down in North Carolina, actually, just this past year with my son. I took him. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. So my birthday is on December 10th. I was born in 1973, which makes me 46 years. Having 46 years of life and love and living and experiencing things and seasoning. I'm a classic, I think, as far as cars would be concerned. Among the titles that I hold are daughter, sister, aunt, and friend. And I'm going to go into greater detail about the other ones that really make a significant difference in bringing this series to you. And the first of them is that I'm a daddy's girl. And while, I mean, no disrespect to my dad, in the earthly realm, I'm a daddy's girl, like of my big daddy, like my big heavenly father daddy. I am a daughter of the divine. I am a woman of righteousness. And I don't mean rightness, let's get that clear. I still make plenty of mistakes. But I am trying to do what's right and what's good, and that's important. I'm also a princess for peace, and I'm a queen on a quest for the glory of God to be revealed in and through all his creations, but most especially his children. I call myself a disciple of Christ versus a Christian, because the word disciple means student of a master, and I am a student of the master. And I take that very seriously. My walk with Jesus Christ has been remarkable and humbling. And I hope in saying that if people are listening who are not of a Christian faith or background, that it encourages you to continue to listen. Because what I've found in most religions is that the idea is the same, is that love is our center and being good to one another is what's important. And so I encourage you to continue listening. If you're not comfortable with hearing God's name and hearing me talk about Christ and stuff like that, then this series isn't for you, and that's okay. I don't mind, but I do need to say that I think it's time that people of all backgrounds come together, because if you're good and you have good work to do, then let's do it together. And honestly, one of the most remarkable people who was part of my journey of love and of learning how to love myself is not a Christian. And so I just say that because it's important to me that all people are welcome to listen and to learn so that we can grow and help one another in this journey called life. And so I am grateful just to be the woman of God that I am, the woman that I've called to be. I'm still in the process of becoming, and that is not in reference to Michelle Obama's book. I have been a human becoming for a long time now. But what an appropriate title, huh? Oh my goodness, I need to read it. But moving on, I am gifted with the Spirit, which I rely on. I'm not always very good at receiving the messages or understanding them completely, but I get better and better every day, especially as I repent and just ask God to take away the things that are hindering me from doing the work he has called me to do, because I do get easily distracted. Don't we all, right? Um, in this earthly realm, being a daddy's girl, my greatest honor, the greatest honors he's bestowed upon me, outside of the responsibilities that I have towards him, the greatest of them is being a mom. I am the mom to a vibrant, dynamic, charming, and extremely loving young black man. Excuse me. His name is Wisdom Chance. He is 4 years old. He was born on December 23rd of 2015 under the most miraculous circumstances. He really is a miracle child to me. Being his mom is my career of choice. He is my heart beating outside of me. He is my dream child, and he lives up to every aspect of the name God gifted him with. And I make sure I let people know that I did not choose his name. To me, initially, it was like a practical joke from God, because I did not want an unusual name for the child I was bringing into the world. I was hearing all these kings and princes, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not going down that route, Heavenly Father. So, I was thinking of family names I didn't want when God spoke, giving him a name and a responsibility. He said his name will be called Wisdom, not for the things he will learn, but the things he will teach. The word of God says, train up a child. And I have taken the word train very seriously. And like a dedicated coach, he is my exceptional athlete. I have endeavored not only to be his first and best teacher, but also his first and best student. And I do not regret that decision at all, because it is my highest honor to be Wisdom's student in every way that could mean. This next aspect of our great adventure is all for him, because he came into the world to be a vehicle for change. I knew this. I knew this when he was in my belly. I knew he was going to be a young black man before the doctor ever told me the sex of the child I was carrying. And I knew he would grow up and be a different young man and do different things. And this is, it's to be expected, really. After all, I am his mom. So I need him to be able to confidently strive for and achieve whatever he wants in this world we live in. Right now, it's not completely ready for him. So I really need to fix that. And not just for him, but for others. He is my motivation and my inspiration to proceed in every endeavor God calls me to do. Now it's taken me a while to get here, but he is. But it's not only because he is my son, but because he represents the incredible potential every man, every woman, and every child has the opportunity to reach given the right circumstances. We have not lived in the best situations, but it has been my goal to provide him with the absolute best circumstances that money could not buy. And if you know my son, you know how awesome he is. And the people he meets on a daily basis continue to be as or more amazed than I am. FYI, the music in the background is Virtuoso by Black Violin. It's track number 3 on their debut CD, Classically Trained. We love these guys. It's the latest song my son has chosen to sleep to. It used to be Go. That's track 11. My son is as spiritually sensitive as he is intelligent, and I truly believe this song was God's way of using him to tell me I'm capable of accomplishing all I've been struggling to do. If you're not familiar with the word virtuoso, it essentially means someone who is exceptional, especially in the arts. Well, there's nothing I'm particularly exceptional in as far as the arts is concerned, but what Wisdom and I have been through is nothing short of remarkable, and the lessons taught and learned are far beyond exceptional, and I have the unique honor of disclosing them. The song is mostly the violinist performing, and the words are simple. I'm virtuoso. Watch me. It's those last 2 words that I'm pretty sure God intended for me, especially for me. It's playing because the ideal time for me to record is in the wee hours of the morning while my son sleeps. The ideal place is the living room closet next to where we sleep. So this is real life, but I'm grateful God helped me find a way after investing my time and trying to find other ways. Now, in order for me to understand why what I've been called to do is so important, God has had me and my son on this incredible journey as his research assistants through the valley of homelessness. Not that I needed to do research for him. He knows what's going on. He is very aware, but I needed to do research for me. When I dedicated my life to God over 10 years ago, he knew I wanted to serve him and help other people. At the time, I had my advantages as a church girl with a wide network of people I could get to help. Or at least I thought I could. My mind was lit up with ideas galore, so I was sure he would allow me to become financially successful in order to help others. I mean, that's how it works, right? Well, the truth of the matter is, he did just the opposite. Alone with others, and most recently with my son, I have lived in the most humbling situations, and I have experienced some of the most heartbreaking events. However, unlike many others, my son and I have flourished in ways that are unimaginable, and we've been taken care of in ways I could not have expected. Hope is a powerful, powerful concept. God made sure I knew that while we are homeless, we are not hopeless. When hope is employed, it ignites faith to action and miracles occur. And that has been our blessing over and over and over again. With all we've experienced, we're now on the front lines of a revolution. But I need to make it clear, this work is not at all about me. It's about God. And I need those who engage with me to have the same "it's not about me" mindset, so the work can get done without worrying about who gets the credit. Will we be in agreement that we can do the work without worrying about who gets the credit? If we're good, please continue listening. If not, I understand, and I totally respect your decision to stop listening and walk away entirely. I am not offended, and I hope you are not either. Now, in order to get this work done, I'd like to introduce you to the company that I've been led to create. I've had the name for over 10 years. It was given to me when I was living in Hawaii in the last 6 months that I lived there. And that was in the first half of 2008. What I experienced there, seeing the poverty among the native Hawaiians and others, was my initial motivation. I never could have imagined it would take over 10 years to see the name develop into something far more beautiful, far from the beautiful land that inspired it. So my greatest hope is to return there and bring the gift of L.U.V Enterprises to the people who were such a gift to me, whether I knew them or not. And that is the name of the company, L.U.V Enterprises. And it's a legit company registered with the state of North Carolina as a sole proprietorship. It was registered on December 23rd, 2019, along with 2 other business names, because it was like giving birth to triplets on Wisdom's birthday. So there is a significance to registering them on that date. And it was pretty empty, especially because I went in about 10 minutes before the office closed. Now, we are an investment company. We invest in people, and the business entities will change in the very near future once I'm sure of what they should be. It would be awesome if it could be a B Corp, but that doesn't exist here as a business entity yet in North Carolina. So I really have to look into in more depth about what the business should be, and then do all the paperwork that requires it for it to be that way. So just so that you know more about love, the word love is spelled L.U.V. It has 3 definitions based on the 3 components of love Jesus described in the Great Commandments. So if you're familiar with the Great Commandments, most people are only think of 2. So I'm going to help you understand why there's 3. The first definition comes from 1 John, where it teaches God is love. The acronym embodies the second definition and relates to how we love ourselves. The meaning is L for learn, U for your, and V for value. Okay, yeah, so, your doesn't start with a U, but we use phonetic language all the time, so it works. And it totally works. And that is where people don't realize that the second aspect, realize that loving ourselves is the second aspect of the Great Commandment, because the Great Commandment says that we're supposed to love God, but then it says love your neighbor as yourself. And so the kind of love that we extend to ourselves is naturally the love that we extend to others. And so that's really important to recognize. And so it's very, very important to love ourselves. And we learn to love ourselves by learning what our value is. And so the last definition is a personal one. It was given to me quite a while ago, and it's a compilation of kind of thoughts and ideas that were in my head that came together as one. But it helps to give direction to the motto for Love Enterprises, which is building the village and raising the child. So the last definition of love is the opportunity, blessing, and challenge of seeing God or Goddess in others, especially when they don't see them in themselves. And then there's another part that says honoring, reverencing, and nurturing that God or Goddess within until they are manifest without. It is a two-part definition that captures the essence of the first two meanings of loving God and loving ourselves. Love of others can only be truly seen and then manifest as an expression of the love of God within each of us, which he has extended and we have received. The primary way he gives us his love is by teaching us our value as his children. And we learn this lesson when we recognize that every trial and every triumph is a witness of a loving God, very aware of our lives. Should I say that again? We learn our value when we recognize that every trial and every triumph is the witness of a loving God, very aware of our lives. When we endure our storms well, they allow us the opportunity to arise to the life God has called us to. It might even be homelessness. That's just as it was for Jesus, his only begotten Son. Now, I'm sure you can see how the motto and the definitions work together. In order for people to manifest their greatest selves, a village has to be built to support them. Best case scenario, this village starts at home and then continues as a child enters their school years. But sometimes that village doesn't do their part properly, so we're recreating it so people can get what they need to become who they are called to be. That is what the future holds for love, the building of a sustainable village that will affect every child of God, regardless of age, by providing a personal and professional support system to see them through to arise. Since this is a company led by a God, he is my CEO. Therefore, the position I hold for Love Enterprises is not CEO or president. I think Wisdom is the president, to be honest with you, because he's the one who has taught me the things that need to happen. So my title is CBB, and that stands for Chief Bushel Blaster. That's correct, Chief Bushel Blaster. It is based on the scripture in Matthew 5, where Jesus is giving a Sermon on the Mount. He calls us to be a light unto the world, then proceeds to give various examples of what that would look like. Speaking specifically of a candle, he says a candle is not meant to have a bushel placed on it. It is meant to be put on a mantle to give life unto the whole house. A bushel then, and even a bushel now, is a unit of measurement that has the volume of about 9 gallons. So if you can imagine a basket large enough to hold 9 gallons of anything being placed on a single candle, especially in the time of Christ, then you already know that the only result for that light is to be completely extinguished. Well, let's face it, there are lots of people with bushels on their lights. Whether those bushels were put there by parents, siblings, or other family members, teachers, peers, friends, or total strangers, they need to be blasted off. And that is my responsibility. Too many people are bushel bestowers. See the list above. Their methods of attack need to be destroyed, and that is also my responsibility. I have no specialized training to do this personally, but I know enough people with enough information to provide the ammunition for the bushel blasting to begin. More people will be needed, found, and utilized as needs demand. This is why I am the chief bushel blaster. I'm the gatherer, the collector who provides the opportunity with the expertise of those involved. As the CBB, I work with a board or executive team called a leadership circle. It's a circle because the circle always remains a circle as it expands and contracts. And the same is true for the leadership circle. We will expand and contract as leaders come and go, but we'll retain its shape and continue to provide the services needed to those who need them. And I think this was something that was important to me because of how the civil rights movement kind of dismantled, because Martin Luther King, which was such a strong leader, and Malcolm X was such a strong leader, that when they both were gone, the world, as far as the Black community and strong leadership, was left with a huge hole. And I don't ever want to see that happen again, because the time right now is critical that that this movement gain momentum and stay moving, so that nothing gets in the way of creating the lives that we all were created to live. Now, the leadership circle is a little more in depth in that it actually has a name, and it's the Get Mad Crew. And that's the GETTMAD crew. And it's an acronym that stands for Gathering Elect Talent to Make a Difference. And that's what our mission is in Building the Village: gathering elect talent to make a difference by raising each and every child. The reason the acronym is Get Mad is based on a quote by Malcolm X that says, when we are sad, that when people are sad, they just cry over their positions. But when people truly get angry, that is when they create change. I don't know about you, but I'm royally pissed about what I'm seeing, excuse my language, and about what I've experienced. There is so much complacency in people who are in a position to do good that nothing is actually getting done. Rather than express anger towards those people or situations, that the energy anger emits will be used to excel with excellence and enthusiasm to create the changes we can not only count on, but that will also last. I don't have any executive orders changing anything I'm doing. Now, I mentioned earlier how wisdom is my motivation because he is a young Black man, and I see in him what is missing in so many others. As I mentioned from the very beginning of my introduction, my focus is primarily on Black children, regardless of their ages. This doesn't include any other nationality or culture or person. I'm simply being straightforward. With every person being a child of God, I intend to leave no stone unturned. Sadly, there are far too many of our children in the Black community across the board not living anywhere close to the best circumstances. But the disparity among Black African American children is alarming. I have lived among them. I live among them now, and I recognize them because I am one of them. It wasn't always like this. I wasn't always like this. Society wasn't always like this. And it was moving to Hawaii in 2008 that led me to where I am now and helped me to discover the humanitarian in me. Now, the humanitarian in me is a natural extension of all the aspects of me I have described in length. It is also significant that my birthday falls on Human Rights Day. And if you're not familiar with it, it is the day the United Nations signed and proclaimed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which many people do not know about. And that is so unfortunate because it's such an important document. But being introduced to Troy Anthony Davis put me on a journey to release that part of me, which had not been tapped into at the time we connected. And I'm not going to go into Troy's story in depth. I just want to talk about the type of person he was and the type of people his family was. Because Troy Anthony Davis was a Black man who was, when we met, he was a Black man on death row in the state of Georgia for a murder he didn't commit. And it was a capital offense. It was considered a capital offense or a capital murder because it was a police officer involved. The police officer was masquerading as a security guard at the time, but it was him who was killed. If you Google Troy Anthony Davis, you'll see his face and can read his story. And so there was a day I was going to school out in Hawaii, and there was a day that one of the clubs on campus was doing a service project, and their service project was to host a letter writing campaign that Amnesty International does every year. And so they basically had this pamphlet printed out of all these people who were considered political prisoners by Amnesty International. And as I flipped through the pamphlet, there was only one person of color in there, and that was Troy. And so I wrote him a letter, and I got a letter back. And to say that he was remarkable, exceptional, those are words I've already used, is to put it lightly. And so when I left, oh, you know what? I didn't move to Hawaii in 2008. That's my bad. I moved to Hawaii in 2004. It was right after my 30th birthday. I left Hawaii in 2008. That's really important because I'm using, that's important to note. So it was between 2004, probably 2005, somewhere around there, that I met Troy. And when I left Hawaii in 2008, that's one of the reasons was to meet Troy. I wanted to know if this man was as he was in his letters. And you go to a maximum security prison to meet a death row inmate. You go in, and then there's, you go through all the security and stuff like that, but then you go in and there's a general meeting area for all the other prisoners in the prison. And then you walk through another set of bars and then into a closed room where there is the meeting area that you can sit at. And it's like there's all these stools that are against a counter. It's kind of like sitting at a bar or something like that. That's kind of how it's set up. And so you don't actually you congregate in a different way. Let's just put it that way. And so his family was there. Part of his family was there. It was his two of his sisters, his nephew, and his mom. And I can promise you that sitting in that little room, in that little space, and talking with his family, you could not have told me that I was not sitting on Miss Virginia's front porch, and that was the name of Troy's mom. You could not tell me that I was not sitting on the front porch, sipping lemonade and hanging out with his family. Like, to be transported in that fashion was incredible. But meeting Troy, like, when he embraces you, there is nothing, that man emitted nothing but just pure, unadulterated love. It was amazing. And I still remember just his embrace being so genuinely warm and enveloping. There was no kind of physical kind of connection like that or anything like that. It was just goodness that came from him. And I just knew that he hadn't committed the crime, regardless of all the things that had been said. And I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went down about, with him trying to be released and things of that nature, that never came to be. He was executed. And the year he was executed, his mom and his oldest sister both passed away. And I was given the opportunity to attend all three funerals. Miss Virginia, she passed away in April, completely unexpectedly. She had gone to the doctor that morning, was given a clean bill of health, and went home and took a nap. And her grandson came in to shake her because she was awake in the rocking chair, and she didn't wake up. She was already gone. Troy was executed in September, and then his sister Martina, who had fought and battled for his freedom from the time that he was initially incarcerated, a battle of over 20 years, succumbed to breast cancer in December. And interestingly enough, her funeral was on my birthday. I didn't tell anybody, but her funeral was on my birthday, which is Human Rights Day. I don't think anybody recognized it at the time, but that was such an honor to be able to attend. And the one thing I remember from all three funerals, and I think it was at Troy's funeral, is that the pastor who spoke said that, like a good mother, Miss Virginia was home when her child returned from school. And it was true. She was such a good woman, and these are such good people. And knowing Troy's story started with a false accusation and that led to a false conviction. This is how life starts out for so many people. And if I had ever known that this is where his story would lead me to, I could never have imagined it. And so that is why I'm a bushel blaster, because there are far too many people living with the false convictions and believing them. and are walking around free, but their minds are imprisoned. And it's time to stop that. It's time to help people move from survive to thrive and to live up to the lights that God put in them to emit. And so I welcome you to be on this journey with me, and not just to be on a journey with me, but to have a good time doing it. So let's go and do some good work.